man.
And sure enough, she was pregnant. I started to nickname you Kosher.
No. Really? I did not know this, folks.
Stay empowered, hand in it when it's hard to see. Patient come with time. Just keep on believing. Yeah, we got to stay prayed up when it don't feel like enough. Hold on to the grind. Come renew your mind, yeah. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hang together, let's talk. Let's talk. Hang together, you gotta know.
What is up, YouTube? This is your girl Rayla, back for another week of Let's Talk, where we encourage, empower, and enlighten. Thank you so much for joining me today for this very special video. I'm so excited. If you were with me on last month, y'all know we celebrated Mother's Day. I invited my mother on the channel with me, and this time around, y'all, it is June. We are in the month of celebration of our fathers, Father's Day, and this video is dedicated to all the wonderful fathers out there. As y'all can see, my setup is a little different because I am on a much needed time away. So I'm in a different environment, but I do have some footage that I want to share with you guys of me interacting with my father and also my stepfather that I want to share with you guys. And before we get into all that, of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Hit that bell so you know when Let's Talk has posted, and I'm ready to get into this video. So I want to start off with dealing with the natural father and just how important they are. I feel like Father's Day can sometimes get a bad rep or often be seen as a time to re-celebrate our mothers, and I understand that a lot of women take on the responsibility of being both the mother and the father, so I completely understand, but it's just something about being able to celebrate our fathers, even if it's not the best relationship, or even if there's maybe some things that you don't know or don't understand about your father, to still find it in your heart to celebrate the importance of the man in the house, the importance of a father's hand, of a father's advice, of a father's words. They're so crucial in the lives that they are in. And so I did a little research. I wanted to see what others thought the importance of a father, what that really looked like, and I found this website called PBC Expo, and it had a list of why fathers are important, but I picked 5 that I thought were quite amazing and what makes fathers so important in our lives. And the first one is dependability. The knowing in our minds that you are going to be there through thick and thin, right? I think fathers have a way of presenting that to their children and to the people, other people in their lives. Involvement, being engaged in not just, you know, one aspect of the child, but in every aspect of the child, what their interest is, what their hopes and their dreams on a daily basis are, and what they become, right? Their compassion, which is a state of mind that helps fathers feel connected to the human experience of being a child, right? Valuing the mother. I thought this was very important. I feel a lot of times when you see a father honoring, respecting the mother of their children, it's something so powerful that you're adopting as not just a man but also as a woman, to not only how to treat women but also how to be treated as one. And then the last one was being human. To own, to see a father own their mistakes, to be open to feedback and teach that growth is a lifelong endeavor, I think is very powerful. And to go deeper into this, I am going to attach a video that I watched that was so powerful because it talks about the roles and the responsibilities of not just the woman but also the man, the mother as well as the father, even siblings. And it's talking about family bondage and generational curses by Matthew Stevenson. And if you have a family, which we all do, I think it's a very, very, very powerful video to watch to really allow you to understand some things and how that dynamic works. So I'm going to attach that. But the bottom line of this whole spiel, and I have other things I want to get to in this video, is that fathers are needed, valued, and important. And their voice in the development of their children is crucial. Is so crucial. And I understand that there are a lot of people on here who may not have dads, or maybe who have fathers who have passed away, maybe don't even know your father. There are a lot of people in different situations, but at the end of the day, the understanding and the awareness, regardless of what your relationship is with your father, is to just know how important and how needed they are. And so now I'm going to get into the part of the video where I infiltrate some footage of not just my stepfather, Eugene Blackman, who has been in my life for the last 10, 11 years or so since I was about 12, and has played a very, very big part in my life, but also my natural father, my biological father, B.M.A.H Senior. I'm so excited. He's all the way in Portland, Oregon, and I'm all the way in Dallas, Texas, but I was able to get him on FaceTime, and we did have quite a conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to have Eugene, my stepdad, go first, so he will be the first voice you will hear, and then my father will be the last voice you will hear. And I'm just asking them, much similar like I did with my mom, I'm just going to be asking them random questions about fatherhood and about, memories, advice, different things. They have 2 questions apiece. And so without further ado, here are Eugene Blackman and B.M.A.H Senior. Pops. Okay, Gene, you ready for these?
I'm ready.
Okay, so give me 3 lessons that fatherhood has taught you so far.
Number 1, process. It is a process that you don't come or start with a manual. You can't find a manual for it. It's something that is either learned by hands-on or examples that you can follow. But either way, it's going to be a process. And then the next thing I've learned, or key I would take, is patient. You have to be patient with yourself and your children, and knowing that you're raising children to be adults. So patience is very needed.
That's good.
And purpose. Ooh. What is the purpose of fatherhood? And the purpose of your children. Know them that you're raising. Know the ones that you're raising. Dig in and investigate what their purpose is. Train up a child, the Bible says, in the way that he or she should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. Not the way you want them to go, but the way they should go.
All right.
So, yeah. So those are the 3, I would say.
Cool. Okay, so the second question we have 2 questions we're asking. The second one is, what advice would you give to a new dad, a new father who's walking into fatherhood for the first time?
I would say not to approach parenting or fatherhood from the aspect or concept of you're not going to make a mistake, but approach it as though that you will make mistakes from time to time, but how will you respond to that mistake? But to approach it as if, this is going to be a perfect walk or a perfect journey, I think would be detrimental to any new father. But if you go in taking your time, crawl before you walk, and walk before you run, and run before you fly, I think that would be good to have that concept that you are capable of making a mistake in this, but it's how you respond.
It's good. Good job. All right, Daddy. So the first question I have is, what is your most fondest memories with your kids that you can think of?
The most fondest memory of my kids?
Yeah.
Well, the day that each of you were born.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they had said that your mom would have a hard time having children. We tried for 5 years, and I prayed for a son, and after 5 years, little Benny came, Junior. And he was the cutest thing in my life. Matter of fact, both of you were C-section babies, and both of you were quite large babies. He was 10 pounds and you were 9.
Yeah, we were heavy.
And guys came into the world with almost a head full of hair. I mean, it was amazing. It was as if you guys came ready.
Yeah.
When Benny came, I was just happy to have my son. And then your mom had the notion of wanting a daughter so many years later. And I never wanted a girl because I didn't want to have to hurt anybody with my daughter. But I was the one, ironically, that got emotional. I got sick. Usually it's the woman, the mother that gets sick. But I started craving kosher pickles. And I started eating it by the jars.
Yeah.
And I asked your mom, "Are you pregnant?" She said, "I don't feel pregnant." I said, "You need to go get tested because I'm eating that kosher pickles with everything." Sure enough, she was pregnant. I started to nickname you Kosher.
No. Really?
But,
I did not know this, folks. I did not know this.
Yes. And then when you were born and you came out and you're just this beautiful girl, I was like, I didn't know, what kind of father I would be to a daughter.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you came and that you were who you were. Yeah. And that, I told your mom, you pray and I'll agree.
Yeah.
So the Lord gave us 2 wonderful children. Joy that I've always had with my children, with both of you, is that I love taking you guys to the park. And of course, I love sneaking y'all somewhere to go eat.
Yes.
And don't tell your mother.
Exactly.
Junior, one of the other fondest memories I had of him was the Cinderella play that he was in. I think he was a 7th grader, but he got the starring role as the prince. And one of the things that I didn't know about my children is that even though your mom and I have crossed feet, we didn't know you guys could dance as well. We don't know where you guys got that from, because it must have skipped a generation.
Yeah, because you guys cannot dance.
I
don't know.
I've been here on stage dancing and doing all that. I said, "Where did you learn that from?" Because we don't dance. Number one, and number two, we can't dance.
Right.
And I was freaking out. I was like, "What?" And then you came along. It's like, "Oh my God, where did they get this talent?" I just felt that my first ministry, even as a pastor, was to my children.
Yeah.
Because children never asked to be here. We decided to have them. Yeah. And irregardless of whether you're together or divorced or whatever, your children don't deserve. It's enough to go through a divorce, and it's enough to go through separation. And we have so much of that in the world. And a lot of parents forget that they have an obligation to minister to their children during that time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I never wanted to do was never wanted to forget that I had an obligation to you and your brother. And so that's what I love most.
Awesome. That's cool, Dad. All right, Daddy. So my second and final question would be, what advice would you give to people who either don't have their fathers by choice, maybe their fathers aren't around, or they've never known their fathers, or, of course, something tragic has happened, they've lost their father?
And my thing is this, is that there's a couple of types of fathers. One who have been absent, never been there.
Yeah.
And I always say, what's worse, the father who's never been in your life,
right,
or the father who was there but never did parent.
Right.
So sometimes you have silent fathers who were there, worked hard, brought in the bacon, paid the bills, but they never parented their children. And sometimes that's generational.
Yeah.
Because they weren't fathered. Because most boys who are men now really talk and communicate to their fathers through their mothers. And it's just unfortunate that, especially in the African American community, that's the way that it is. So I would say it really takes a man to raise a man, though a woman can do it. because I've seen it. They've had to play both roles.
Yeah.
But it means something to have that masculine male figure in life. I was so happy to have had my father and grandfather in my life and made such a big difference. Though my mom was a great influence, having that balance,
Right.
because I believe that's the way God made it to be.
Right.
Even though it can work with just one, but I will say that for you, whose father was never there, one of the things that I found out about young men who didn't have fathers in their life, they seem to create their own world, their own rules, and anything that is offensive or that doesn't fit into their norm or whatever, they reject it. And, they had to do what they had to do to survive.
All right.
Then there are those young men who had their fathers in their life. They were blessed to have their fathers in their lives, and what a blessing it is. And then there's us who, like myself, our fathers have passed and gone. And so my advice is become the man that was not in your life. Become the man. Look at a positive figure and mock that man. One of the things that deters me more is men who have children but do not take care of them, as though it's just the mother's responsibility. No, it is your responsibility. That's your seed. Right. So you want to take care of your seed. Right. And you just have a great responsibility. But if your father is not going, if he's just a sperm donor and he doesn't want to take care of it, that's okay. You still have everything within you to make it. Right. And if you had a good father and he's gone on, what you do is you take the principles and the norms and the things that he taught you and become the man that you know that he would want you to be, but don't lose your own personal identity. Yeah. I mean, you have a unique identity. God did only make one of you, even though you might come up in a house with several other boys and brothers, but there's only one of you, and you're unique and wonderfully made. So keep that in proper perspective, as I've had to do with the death of my father and whatnot. And now I am a father, and then now my son is a father, and our sons are fathers. And we just wanted to be a role model to show them how, number one, to treat their mothers, and number two, how to treat their children and how to walk upright in society. And again, we can do that. Yeah, that's awesome. That was good, Dad. Are you going to take over Let's Talk? Because you talking real good right now. I'm going to take over. I'm going to have you come back now. This is your baby. Right. This is my baby. The vision came from you. Yeah. And I admire what God is doing with you. Yeah, well, I just want to appreciate you, obviously, being that it is Father's Day, and let you know that I thank you for being such an awesome daddy, really, and to let you know that I love you very, very much. And, I know a lot has happened this year, and it's been crazy. It's been something a season we've never been in before. So it's a blessing to have my daddy this year, Life is full of learning curves. Yeah. Learn from every situation and keep it pushing. Right. You're never too old. It's a continual process. That's right. Rayla. I love you very much. What's your nickname? Puncha. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I had so much fun, especially with my own dad, being that, again, we're not in the same state. It was so awesome to be able to FaceTime. I don't have an iPhone, so I'm not usually able to FaceTime, but I was able to this time. And I was so excited to see him, converse with him, and it was just awesome to see him, and I can't wait to see him in person here in a very short amount of time. I'm excited, okay? But before I move on, I just want to bring out a scripture, because as we can see, fatherhood is a hard job. It's not one to take on
easy or lightly. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of growth. It takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of learning, a lot of process to really know what it is to be a father. And so I just want to leave the scripture with you before we move on. And it is in Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. And it says, honor your father and your mother, so that you may have long life in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. I feel like that's so important because I've seen too many times, and that's why I'm hammering this so much. I've seen too many times people dishonoring their fathers. And I'm not always saying that our fathers do things that are honorable or that we feel like we should honor. But it says to honor them so that your days may be prolonged. So we can't always go based off of what someone does or what someone has said. We have to really go through a process as children to say, okay, Dad, you're human. Okay, Dad, you're learning. Okay, Dad, you're only giving me what you were given. And the same thing with our mothers. It's no different. And so we have to be able to do that, especially as we get older. And that's why I was pushing so hard for people to listen to root causes and beyond the roles, right? And there's just a few things that I want to personally say as a young woman who has a father, right? What I personally learned about fatherhood. And one is that my father can only give what he was given, as I said earlier. And this is really with any parent, mother and father. I've had to learn this with both of my parents. And a good father, another thing is, a good father must be allowed to take off the cape, even before his children. We dads have they have it hard, I think. I think they have it a little harder because we're sometimes put them on a level or on a platform that they're not always strong enough to be on, or that they don't always feel like completing because of what they're going through internally or at work or in the home that you have no idea of. But we have to allow them to be able to get vulnerable, to be able to fail, to be able to get it wrong, and not see them as anything more than human, because just like us, that is exactly what they are. Another thing is, there are things, qualities that a father has that are specific to him. I need a daddy. Daddies are needed. Fathers are so needed. And oftentimes those responsibilities do get put on the mother, but it's out of order if that's the case. Not saying she can't do it, but there are things that a father gives, that a father speaks, that a father cultivates, that even though a woman can do, it's not her job to do. So regardless of whether you know it or not, you need your father. You need your father. And the video that I'm going to attach from Matthew Stevenson in the description will give you more of an insight as to why, other than what I'm saying right now. And then the last thing I have learned is to embrace all of my father while he's here. Quick testimony, I won't get too in depth with it. My natural father, who lives in Oregon, as I said earlier, this year, I will just say it in this way, has been in the hospital more times within the last 6 months or so than in my 23, almost 24 years of living. I've never seen him in the hospital this much, with very scary scary conditions, things that are going on in his body, with his health. And you know, it's nothing but the grace of God that he's still here, and that I'm here to celebrate him on Father's Day. He's here to celebrate on Father's Day. It's an amazing gift, but we have to learn how to look over what we feel like we should have gotten, or what we feel like we deserve as children, even though those things may be true, you know, but be able to look at them as at least the carrier of us. If we can't appreciate anything else about our fathers, and this goes across all race, all creed, all culture, if we can just look at them as people who carried us and brought us into this world, we would not be here without our fathers. And I think if we can look at both mothers and fathers that way, that sometimes they are just used to get us here. And if we can be thankful for anything, be thankful for that you were a product, that they got you here to live and to breathe and to be and to dream and to do all the things that you do now. They were the carriers of that. They were the vehicles of you. And our fathers are our carriers. They are the ones carrying us around. We are their seed until the seed fertilizes the egg, and then we start to see the physical results in the mother. But it starts in the father, right? And so fathers are needed. Fathers are so critically important, and they do things, provide things that the woman, the mother, has done, but can never do as good as they could. And of course, aside from acknowledging our natural fathers, I could not let this video end without acknowledging my spiritual father, Jesus Christ, who has been a huge inspiration for my life and the direction that I want to go. A lot of that comes from him. And so I was in our Zoom service through B.M.A.H Ministries, Build Me a House Ministries, which I will also put in the description. I will put our link, our Zoom link, and that includes our passcode and password and all that kind of stuff. So if you all want to join us, we meet on Sundays and Wednesdays. I will put those hours below as well. But while we are in the month of June, talking about fatherhood through the perspective of God, right? And one of the scriptures that I want to share with you all that we talked, Ephesians chapter 1, verse 4 through 6. And it says, "For he chose us in him before the foundation of the world to be holy and blameless in love before him. He predestined us to be adopted as sons." He adopted us as sons, right? Through Jesus Christ for himself. That was his means to do it. Through Jesus Christ, he adopted us as sons for himself, according to the good pleasure of his will, to the praise of his glorious grace that he lavished on us in the beloved one. And so it makes me feel good, and it gives me a reason to be even more thankful on Father's Day, to know that I do have a father outside of my natural father, who chose me before I chose him, who loved me before I knew how to love. I'm still learning to this day how to do that, how to love right. And it's something about being adopted, you know what I'm saying? Because that goes to show, even though I didn't birth you, even though you didn't come from me per se, I'm choosing to bring you into my home, regardless of where you've been, regardless of who your natural parents are, regardless of the circumstances you were brought up in. I'm choosing to allow you into all of, not just my home, but into all of the extras and the add-ons to my home. Not only do you get me, but you get this big kitchen, you get this big comfy bed, you get all of these amenities that I'm sure you were not accustomed to before you came here. And that's awesome. That's awesome to know that God loves you and I that much, to not just say, okay, y'all over there, I'm over here, but no, to adopt us through Jesus Christ, his son, and say, now you all are mine. That's how much I love you. So it's a blessing to know that. And I am so very excited, because this is not only the opportunity to see, which you all have already seen if you watched this far, my dad and my stepfather speak, but I also wanted to use this opportunity to present a spoken word to you all through poetry. I have a poem that I wrote some time ago called "When He Took His Last Breath." And it is talking about basically what took place when Jesus Christ came, died, and took his last breath. Of course, we know 3 days later he rose again, but it's just a poem that speaks to the transaction that took place, that adoption, as I read before, that took place immediately after Jesus Christ came, lived, died, rose again. And what the power of his last breath was our first, right? And so I hope that you enjoy this poem. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites because it's so personal, and it talks about the son daughter to father relationship. It even talks about the husband wife relationship. I have learned that the Bible is full of references to family because that's just how important family is to God. The idea of sons, sisters, brothers, mother, father, all of these, the bride and the groom, all these references are made that have to do with family. And so it goes to show how important family is to God. And so being that it's Father's Day, I thought this was the perfect poem to share with you guys. I hope you enjoy it. And here is When He Took His Last Breath. When he took his last breath, we took our first. His death was a baby's first cringe and cry on planet Earth. While he wept, we slept, destined to fall, unaware that his blood would cover it all. Life he lost, so life I gained. Stripped of his glory just so I could have a name. Strength depleted, flesh beaten due to the disobedience of a firstborn. The lost dreams of Eden. When he took his last breath, we took our first. We went from malnourished orphans to lambs, from his breastplate nursed. His blood covered us in a red hue. Took us no work to earn. Now the groom just wants to hear an I do. For his bride he still does yet yearn. His death birthed a nation. Representation of second chances, a reflection of God using anyone for the sake of his kingdom's advancement. His last breath was a love story. Choosing your face over his glory. Choosing your life, denying the power of his might. Choosing your victory over his ability to say, I quit. When he took his last breath, we took our first. Our debts piled up to the sky with no need to reimburse. This is insane. But that's the weight of his name. The weight that sees the dump site of this world, yet smells clean linen. That sees the scars of my yesterday, yet reminds me of the holes he still wore even after he had risen. His last breath resurrected the dust of his initial intention. It broke down the barrier between a father and his children. It reignited the fire of a husband and wife. It took the two back to the butterflies felt when meeting for the very first time. His last breath was the epitome of union. The face of purity juxtaposed with the faces of you and me. And all that the tree revealed and exposed to our view, it did not matter. Our distinction, one from another, shattered. Your last breath said, daughter, no matter how far away from me you think you are, my love for you will always stretch farther. No matter how deep your valley goes, my mercy exceeds it, for of this valley I am the author. I made you mine until the end of time. When running, run to me. Your refuge is in me. Understand that when my last breath was taken, it was you I had seen. It was your story, your purpose, your impact on this world that would trace back to your father's glory. I made you a daddy's girl. So El Shaddai, Abba Father, I now breathe the life you've given. You served the time for a crime I committed, saved me from the prison. When he took his last breath is when we took our first one. Now as the burning ball so obediently does every morning, I will rise as a sun. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Shout out to Present. He is the one who put all of the music together, helps me record, and all that good stuff. So, of course, I will put his information in the description as well. If you need beats, if you need music, he produces, he sings, he writes, all that good stuff. It's all on his website, so I will make sure to put that in the description below. Also, as I did with Mother's Day, you know I can't leave my papas out. I am going to do a little slideshow in honor of my daddy, B.M.A.H Sr. I love you so much, Dad, and I thank you for being on Let's Talk with me. Also, Jeannie, thank you for being on here and for so much wisdom over the years that you shared that has a lot to do with who I am now. You know, so it's a beautiful thing. So I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining me. To all the fathers out there, keep going. We see you. We love you. We embrace you. To all the single dads out there holding it down, you're appreciated. And we are just so blessed. We're so blessed to those who have fathers in our lives. To have you're a treasure, you're jewels, and you're so needed. You're so needed. But I love you guys. This is Let's Talk, where we encourage, empower, and enlighten. And I hope to see you guys very soon.
Stay empowered and in it when it's hard to see. Patient come with time. Just keep on believing. Yeah, we got to stay prayed out when it don't feel like enough. Hold on to the grind. Come renew your mind. Yeah. Let's talk. Let's talk. Ain't no